I worked night shifts at a warehouse just outside Tulsa. It's a typical place, giant metal shell of a building, rows and rows of pallets, forklifts, scanners, and that weird hum the lights always make when it's too quiet. It's boring, sure, but boring is safe. Or at least, I used to think so. This started a few months ago when our warehouse was understaffed. Management started pulling in temps to help fill gaps. Mostly young guys, some older folks just trying to make a few bucks. They usually got tossed into unloading trucks or repalletizing busted shipments. One Tuesday night, around 10 p.m., a guy showed up. I didn't catch his name at first. Tall, maybe mid-40s. Wiry build, short brown hair, pale skin like he hadn't seen the sun in weeks. He had on a faded blue hoodie and black work pants. No name tag, no vest, but he walked in like he knew where he was going. I figured he was one of the temps. I was scanning crates and receiving when I saw him pushing a cart toward the far aisles, back where we keep the overstock and bulk storage. He moved like he'd done it before. No hesitation, no questions. "Hey," I said, trying to be polite. "You new?" He nodded but didn't say anything. Just gave this sort of tight-lipped smile and kept moving. Whatever. Some of the temp guys were like that. Quiet, focused, no small talk. Still, I noticed a couple weird things right off the bat. For one, he didn't ask where anything was. Every time I saw him, he was already working, sorting product, hauling crates, scanning labels. Like he already knew the system. We don't exactly have an intuitive layout either. You'd need a map or at least some direction to figure out where half the stuff goes. I watched him navigate the aisles like he'd been there for years. The second weird thing? He was fast. Too fast. I saw him lift full pallets by hand, not literally, but close. No forklift. Just wedging a pallet jack under awkward loads in a way that would take me twice the time. And he never took breaks. Not once. By the end of the week, I mentioned it to my manager, Christine. "Hey, who's the new temp on night shift?" I asked. Tall guy, always in the back aisles, real quiet. She frowned. "You mean Mike?" "No. Not Mike. This guy's older. Doesn't talk much. Wears a blue hoodie." Christine stared at me for a second like she was trying to read my face. "We haven't brought on anyone like that. No older guy. Only temps this week were Kyle and Denise, and they've been on shipping, not your section." I blinked. "He's here every night." "Not on my roster," she said flatly. "You sure you're not confusing someone from day shift?" I shook my head. "No, he's on nights. I've seen him working back by aisle H. He doesn't even clock in at the front, now that I think about it." Christine didn't laugh. She didn't brush it off. She just looked unsettled, like something clicked in her head that she didn't like. "Next time you see him," she said slowly, "don't talk to him. Come find me. Got it?" That should have been my first clue, but I didn't know what I was dealing with yet. I didn't know how far this was about to go. The next night, the man in the blue hoodie showed up again. Same time, same quiet steps, same blank expression. And this time, he looked right at me. The next night, I came in a little early. Part of me just wanted to confirm I wasn't going crazy. Maybe Christine was right. Maybe I had confused someone from another shift. Or maybe the guy was just slipping through the cracks in the system. At 9:52 p.m., I was at my station, scanner in hand, watching the rear receiving bay. That's where I always first saw him. And sure enough, right around 10:03, he came through the side entrance like clockwork. Not the front, where temps checked in, but the narrow door near the dumpsters, where deliveries sometimes came in after hours. Blue hoodie, black work pants, same slow, steady walk. And this time, when he passed me, he nodded. It wasn't friendly. It felt familiar. That's what got me. Not fear, not confusion. Familiarity. like he recognized me. I followed at a distance, keeping quiet. He turned down aisle H, headed straight for the overflow pallets. It was weirdly methodical, like he had a list, but I never saw him use a scanner or check any labels. He just started pulling down boxes, moving them like he already knew where they belonged. I texted Christine, "He's here, same guy, aisle H, come now." No reply. After a few minutes, I walked closer, pretending to be scanning nearby items. He didn't even glance at me, but he spoke this time. "A lot cleaner than it used to be," he said, not looking up. "You guys organize better now." I stopped. "What?" Still not looking at me, he said, "Back when I worked here, before the remodel, everything was a mess, dangerous even. You remember the accident?" I just stared. "What accident?" He finally turned his head and made eye contact. And I swear, it felt like he was testing me. I fumbled a response. I started 6 months ago." He blinked, slowly, then nodded and went back to lifting a box. "Right. Must have been before your time." I walked away, heart thudding. I waited for Christine to show up, but she never did. I didn't see her car outside either, which was strange because she was the one scheduled for supervisor that night. I found my coworker Lexi on break and asked her, "Hey, did Christine call off or something?" She shrugged. "No idea. She's not on the schedule tonight. Thought she was off until Thursday." I showed her the texts. She told me to message her if I saw that temp guy again. Lexi frowned. "Christine hasn't been answering texts all day." That's when the pit in my stomach really started to form. I went back to aisle H, but the guy was gone. No sign of him, no unfinished work. Just like before, in and out, quiet, like he'd never been there at all. After the shift, I waited outside near the side entrance. It's not a well-lit area, mostly used for waste pickups and the occasional after-house delivery. But at 3:41 a.m., just before I was about to give up, I saw him again. He slipped out the same way he came in, through the side door, no badge, no key. But this time, I followed him. He walked across the lot, past the dumpsters, toward the edge of the industrial park. There was an older, abandoned office building back there, boarded up, fenced off, something about an asbestos cleanup years ago. He walked around the back and disappeared into the dark. The next day I did some digging, looked into old employee records, scoured the archived group photos we have framed in the break room hallway. Took me a while, some of those are over a decade old. But I found one. A 2011 holiday party photo, all employees lined up in front of the warehouse bay. And there he was, same face, same eyes, wearing a warehouse vest, and smiling, hand on someone's shoulder. The caption underneath, "Randy, 10 years strong." I took the photo to HR. That's when I learned the worst part. Randy was fired in 2013 for stalking another employee. HR didn't like that I had the photo. That was clear from the way the woman behind the desk tensed the moment I slid it over to her. She took one glance, then pushed it back toward me with the kind of practiced smile people use when they're trying to control a reaction. "Where did you find this?" "Break room wall," I said. "Holiday photos, right next to the vending machines." She didn't say anything at first, just tapped her pen against the desk. "I saw him working this week," I added, low and serious. "He's been here. Night shifts, aisle H. Same guy. Still using the side door." That got her attention. She stood in motion for me to follow her into a back office. Once the door shut, her smile dropped. "That man's name is Randy Dorsey," she said. "He worked here from 2003 to 2013. Terminated after multiple complaints." "What kind of complaints?" She hesitated, then opened a file drawer and pulled a thin folder marked Archives Incident. Obsessive behavior, inappropriate questions, Showed up outside a female co-worker's apartment. Nothing criminal stuck, but we let him go quietly. He didn't take it well. I felt my skin crawl. So why is he back? She shook her head. He shouldn't be. He was blacklisted from rehire. He's not in the system, no keycard, no badge, no temp agency is supposed to assign him here. But he is here, I said, nightly, working like he belongs. She started typing into her computer, checking rosters and clearance logs. Nothing. No Randy Dorsey. No recent visitor logs matching his description. Either someone let him in manually, she said, or he found another way. I went straight to Christine the next shift. She was back on duty and visibly shaken when I mentioned the name. Randy, she said. You're sure? I nodded. I saw him. Multiple nights. You told me to let you know if I saw anything weird, remember? Christine sighed and leaned against the pallet jack like her knees gave out a little. I didn't say anything before because, honestly, I didn't think it was possible. But back in 2012, I was the one who filed the first complaint. He used to hang around my car after shifts. Once, I caught him writing something down when I came out, like he was keeping a log. You think he's still doing that? I don't know, she said. But if he's back, we need to do more than talk. We went to the security office and asked for camera footage from the past week, especially around the side entrance. The night guard, Jeff, pulled it up. That's when things got worse. There was no footage. Every night, between 9:55 and 10:15 p.m., the feed glitched out. Just the camera by the side entrance. The rest worked fine. But that one feed would cut to static for about 20 minutes. Every single time he arrived. Either it was a coincidence or someone was intentionally messing with the system. The last thing we did that night was check the logbook at the temp agency we contracted with. Christine called in a favor and got me a look at their intake list. No Randy. No one matching his age or description, nothing close. But buried deep in a column labeled alternates, someone had scribbled an old name and a note in pen. Dorsey, cleared by Rich, familiar with floor layout. Rich was our former warehouse manager. Retired 6 months ago. He had a reputation for ignoring protocol and doing things his way. Apparently that included pulling old contacts back in off the books. We tried calling him, but he didn't answer, left messages, never got a reply. By the next week, Randy stopped showing up. No one saw him leave. No resignation, no goodbye, no mess. He just disappeared, again. But 2 nights ago, someone slipped a folded paper into my locker. No name, no handwriting, just 4 words. I know where you are. I've worked in warehouse storage for about 2 years now. It's the kind of job where the days bleed together. Boxes, forklifts, paperwork, repeat. The warehouse I'm at is old. I mean, like built in the 70s old. Some parts of it don't even get used anymore, like the second loading dock, the rusted-out office upstairs, and the old walk-in freezer at the back of the building. That freezer has been out of commission for years. Nobody touches it. It's always locked, and it's basically treated like a storage closet for junk no one needs anymore. I passed by it dozens of times and never thought twice about it, until the noises started. It was a Tuesday night. I was working the closing shift alone, which isn't that weird when things are slow. I was stacking some leftover inventory near the back when I heard it. Bang, bang, bang. It wasn't loud at first, just a soft, steady thumping from the far corner. I figured it was one of the old shelves rattling or maybe the air system kicking on, so I ignored it. But then I heard it again. Bang, bang, this time closer. I followed the sound, walking past the rows of pallets until I realized it was coming from the freezer door. It was such a weird thing to hear, honestly. The freezer had been padlocked for years. It didn't even have power connected to it anymore. It's just this giant cold metal box in the middle of the warehouse that no one uses. Still, I went over and pressed my ear to the door. For a second, there was nothing, just the usual distant hum of the overhead lights. Then I heard it. Knocking. And a faint sound that I swear to God sounded like crying. I stepped back, my pulse picking up. I told myself I was being dramatic. Maybe it was a raccoon or a stray animal that got trapped somehow. But I didn't know how anything could have gotten in. The freezer has no vents or windows. It's solid steel all around. I called my supervisor, Jerry, and told him what I was hearing. He sighed and told me not to worry. Probably just pipes settling or some old duct rattling. Classic Jerry response. But I couldn't shake the feeling. The banging was too steady, too purposeful. That night, as I finished locking up, I walked past the freezer one last time. I leaned in again, half expecting silence. Instead, I heard something that made me step back. A voice. Faint, muffled. A child's voice. "Help me." I bolted out of there so fast I nearly forgot to lock the front door. The next morning, I told Jerry everything, and he promised he'd check it out with me after our shift. He laughed it off, but I could tell I'd gotten under his skin. Because even if the freezer was supposed to be sealed tight, even if there was no way inside, someone, or something, was definitely knocking. Jerry met me at the back of the warehouse after our shift ended. He had a crowbar in one hand, keys in the other, and this look on his face like he didn't really believe anything was going to happen, but didn't want to admit he was a little spooked too. "Let's get this over with," he muttered, unlocking the rusty padlock. The door groaned when we opened it. The metal creaked like it hadn't been moved in years, and honestly it probably hadn't. A puff of stale, cold air hit us in the face. The smell was sharp, metallic, with this weird underlying scent like mildew and freezer-burned meat. The inside of the freezer was empty. No crates, no trash, no animal, nothing. Just a pale coat of frost along the steel walls and floor, glittering under our flashlights. It was colder than it should have been, considering there was no power running to it. Jerry frowned and stepped inside. "The vent, no way in," he said. "Unless someone magically teleports, there's no way anyone's been inside this thing." I stayed near the doorway, heart pounding. Something about standing inside that freezer felt wrong. Not just cold. Wrong. The kind of wrong you feel in your gut when you know you're somewhere you shouldn't be. And that's when I noticed it. The frost on the far wall, it wasn't smooth. There were marks in it. Long, jagged streaks. Not from something brushing against it either. These were sharp and deliberate. 5 lines, spaced like fingers. Like something had dragged its hand across the wall. "Jerry," I whispered. "Look at that." He walked over, leaned in. "What the hell?" He touched one of the streaks and flakes of ice crumbled off, revealing a dent in the metal beneath. "This isn't from any rodent." We stared at it for a long time in silence. Then Jerry turned, looking unsettled in a way I hadn't seen before. "I'm locking this up again," he said, "and we're reporting it. Something's not right." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing that faint knock in my head, kept replaying the voice saying, "Help me." It didn't sound desperate, it sounded rehearsed, like it had been said over and over again. I came into work the next morning with a pit in my stomach. I went straight to the back to check the freezer again, even though it was locked. The door was wide open. The padlock lay on the ground like it had been placed there. Inside, the claw marks were gone, but on the wall, drawn in the frost with a fingertip, were 3 words. "You heard me." I called Jerry, I called security, but by the time anyone came to look, the words were gone. The frost had melted slightly, like the air had warmed just enough to erase what I'd seen. And just like that, no one believed me. But that night, the knocking started again. And this time, it didn't stop. After that second night, I refused to go near the back of the warehouse alone. I stuck to the front, sorting labels, dealing with returns, anything that kept me away from the freezer. But the knocking didn't stop. Even from the front office, I could hear it faintly. No one else seemed to notice. Or maybe they just didn't want to. Jerry tried to laugh it off, but he didn't go back there again either. Not after the message. Not after you heard me. A few days later, corporate sent some guys to clear out old storage areas for remodeling. I kept my head down, hoping they'd finally tear that freezer out and be done with it. But that night, I was asked to stay late again. Just for a couple of hours. Just to help with inventory scanning. I didn't want to. God, I really didn't. But I needed the money. Everything was fine at first. I had music playing through one earbud, just enough to drown out the building's usual groans. I was halfway through logging a pallet of shrink-wrapped electronics when I noticed the lights flickering in the back aisle. They froze. Flickering lights always meant one thing here: the freezer. I tiptoed toward it like I was approaching some wild animal. The hallway was colder than it should have been. My breath puffed out in little clouds, and I wasn't even inside the freezer. The door was open again. Only this time, the frost on the floor stretched out into the aisle. There were footprints. Small, barefoot footprints leading from inside the freezer out into the warehouse. I looked inside. It was empty. No claw marks, no words, no strange symbols, just silence and cold. But the tracks, they led away toward the packing area, toward where I had just been. I followed them slowly, heart hammering, scanning the rows of shelves, the flickering light casting long, shifting shadows. Then I saw her. A girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, standing barefoot in the middle of the aisle. Skin pale like ice, hair wet and stringy, like she'd just climbed out of a lake. She wore an old hospital gown, stained and torn at the hem. Her lips didn't move, but I heard her voice clear as day. "You heard me. Why didn't you help?" I couldn't move, couldn't speak. My body locked up like I was frozen from the inside out. And then, just like that, she was gone. No sound, no footsteps, just vanished. The frost on the floor melted instantly. The air warmed. I reported it. I told Jerry everything, but he just stared at me and said quietly, "You're not the first." He walked away after that, never brought it up again. A week later, he quit, left without saying goodbye. The freezer's still there, still locked, but sometimes, when I'm the last one out, I hear her. Soft knocks. A faint voice, asking for help no one ever gave her. There's a rhythm to working in a warehouse. Same inventory routines, same scanner beeps, same forklifts humming down the aisles. That rhythm keeps your head down. Makes you stop noticing the weird little things. Until one of them refuses to be ignored. It started on a Thursday morning. I was helping unload the last of the overnight freight. Most of it was standard stock. Bulk food, cleaning supplies, seasonal decor. Each pallet was shrink-wrapped and labeled with a barcode, invoice number, and destination aisle. We were running behind, so I barely looked at most of it. Then I saw the crate. It wasn't on the manifest. No invoice, no barcode. Just a tall wooden crate about 7 feet high, 4 feet wide. Heavy as hell, but not on any of our load sheets. No stamp, no brand, not even a return address. Just a hand-scrawled number in red marker on the side. 427B. "Hey," I called to Leon, the shift lead. "You see this?" He walked over, already annoyed. "Is it damaged?" No, it's not on the list. He squinted at the crate, rubbed at the red numbers with his thumb. Could be a misrouted item, maybe meant for another store? I nodded, slowly. Then why's it addressed to us? We flipped it around. Nothing. Just more wood slats, nailed shut from the inside. Whatever was in it didn't rattle or shift. It just sat there, still and silent. Put it aside, Leon muttered. I'll check with corporate later. We slid it over near receiving's back wall and left it. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. By lunch, a few of the other workers had noticed it too. Is that thing buzzing? One of them asked. We pressed our ears to the side. No buzzing, just a faint hum, like pressure on the other side. Later that shift, Leon came back with a crowbar and cracked the top open. Everyone gathered around, a bunch of grown adults crowding a mystery box like it was Christmas morning. He pried off the slats, one by one. Inside was a single, full-length mirror, wrapped in thick fabric. No padding, no foam, just a mirror, standing upright, covered in dust. It looked old. The frame was dark wood, carved with some kind of spiral design, almost antique, but the glass was clean. Too clean. When Leon pulled off the wrap and tilted it, I saw my reflection, and someone else's. Not behind me in real life, just in the mirror. I spun around, no one there, just racks and forklifts. I looked back. Empty. I laughed it off, embarrassed. Maybe a trick of the light. Too many hours staring at barcodes and pallet IDs. But I wasn't the only one. Over the next hour, 3 different workers looked into that mirror, and each one said the same thing. I swear I saw someone standing behind me. By the end of the day, no one wanted to go near the mirror. It sat in receiving like it belonged there, standing tall, spotless, heavy as stone. Leon told us to leave it alone until we got confirmation from corporate, but even he stopped looking directly into it. That night, I stayed late to finish my pick list. I passed by receiving on my way out and saw Hector standing in front of the mirror, just staring. He hadn't even clocked out yet. I hesitated. Hey man, you good? He didn't turn around, just nodded slowly. She was standing behind me, he said, voice quiet. In the reflection. I stepped closer. Who? My sister, he said. She died last year. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I tried to say something comforting, but he walked away without another word, just picked up his jacket and left. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the crate, where it came from, why it had no shipping info, and why, every time someone looked into it, they saw something that shouldn't be there. The next morning, I checked the security footage. I figured maybe I'd catch a prank, a camera trick, something rational. But between 1:10 a.m. and 1:17 a.m., the camera facing receiving cut out, static. When it came back online, the mirror had shifted about a foot to the left. No one had moved it. I asked Leon if he'd heard from corporate yet. He just shook his head. Still waiting. The longer it stayed in the warehouse, the worse things felt. People walked faster through receiving. No one took breaks nearby. At least 2 guys swapped shifts to avoid that side of the building. And that's when Marcy quit. She'd been working night inventory for 5 years, one of the most reliable employees we had. Then, one morning, she just clocked out, left her badge on the desk, and walked out without saying a word. Later, someone found her note in the break room, scribbled on the back of a packing slip. It showed me my father. He's been dead since 2006. I don't know what this thing is, but it's not just a mirror. After that, Leon ordered it to be locked in the janitorial cage at the back of receiving, out of sight, behind 2 locked gates. Still, none of us felt like it was really gone. That night, the janitor, Terrence, came in early and refused to do his rounds. "It keeps moving," he said. "I lock it up and it's in a different spot by morning." I asked him what he saw in the glass. He just looked at me and said, "Myself, but older, eyes missing." After Terrence's comment, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that mirror, the carved spirals in the frame, the flawless glass. The way people changed after looking into it, like it pulled something out of them. I started doing some digging, asked around quietly. I figured maybe someone accidentally logged the crate under a different shipment ID. But there was no paper trail. No freight company claimed it. No barcode scans. Nothing in the logs before it arrived. It was like it just appeared. I went back to receiving with a flashlight the next night. The place was empty, dead quiet. I unlocked the janitorial cage and stepped inside. The mirror stood exactly where we left it. But something about it felt closer, like it was waiting. I forced myself to look into the glass. This time, I saw myself. No one behind me, no tricks of light, just me. For a second. Then I blinked and saw my reflection turn away. I didn't move. But the man in the mirror did. He looked over his shoulder, straight at something behind him, something I couldn't see. His face twisted into this expression I didn't recognize, a mix of fear and awe. Then he vanished. I stepped back and slammed the door to the cage shut. That was it for me. The next day, I brought it up to Leon again. Told him this thing wasn't just creepy, it was doing something to people. No one laughed anymore. No one called it paranoia. We submitted a request to remove the mirror from the premises, not to corporate, they dragged their feet for too long, but to facilities. The warehouse supervisor approved it, probably just to get us to stop talking about it. On Monday, a hauler came by. We packed the mirror back into the crate and sealed it with fresh nails. Still no shipping label. Still no return address. But we didn't care. We loaded it up on a pallet jack and wheeled it out to the dock. And here's the part that still doesn't sit right with me. The hauler didn't ask for paperwork, didn't sign anything, didn't even open the back of his truck, just nodded, helped us lift it in, and drove away. No company name on the side of the truck, no plates, just a blank white box van pulling into the foggy distance. We never heard about it again. No calls, no return. No one asked where it went. But last week, I got a package at my apartment. No sender, no return address. Just a small box with a spiral carved into the top. Inside, a hand mirror. Same carved frame, same spotless glass. I haven't looked into it yet, but it's sitting on my nightstand.